Yeah, obviously got back at it today. We just walked off the practice floor right now. So preparing here for Maryland, who, as we know here, what we saw is a good team, and I think they've proven that since with obviously their wins at Illinois and Minnesota this past weekend. So present a lot of challenges and issues that our team is looking forward to attacking. So, and we'll obviously stay on the road from Maryland to Penn State Wednesday to Saturday, obviously, to make it another double road trip. So questions probably take you into more specific things you want to ask about. So I'll open up for questions.
Let's start with Jeff Petrukis. Jeff.
Yeah, Greg, it hasn't been too long since that game at the Kohl Center against Maryland. Looking back on that game and what they did specifically in the second half, what are some of the things you're going to need to address in this rematch against them defensively?
Yeah, I think, dribble penetration, keep the ball out of the paint, something that we've continually tried to get better at. We worked at it specifically today. But because of how they play and matchup wise, it's just there's a lot of challenges that get put on the floor. Even against Minnesota, they played exceptionally small, and obviously that presents some challenges, and it's going to test our adherence to rules and discipline within our system. And we got to be better on the ball in terms of continuing dribble penetration initially, but also in the layers that build our defense. So they probably more than any other team, just because of the lineup they put on the floor, challenge that as much as any team in the league.
Let's go to Jim Polzine. Jim.
You said the other day you were pretty comfortable with the shot selection from 3-point range. When you had a chance to look it over, did you have the same feeling? And I guess your 3-point numbers are down from where they were during your run at the end of last year. Do you see anything to explain why?
Not making shots. I mean, that's the difference. That's what affects the numbers. The ball goes in or not. I mean, in analyzing all the shots, Jim, and there's a point in time too where you don't want to overanalyze it and micromanage shot selection, because that becomes then you have players second guessing. But by and large, there was 11 or 12, maybe 13 that I would take every day of the week that were wide open, and I'm talking wide open. There were 5 to 6, maybe 1 or 2 more that you'd say, all right, no, don't take it given time, given where the ball came from. But by and large, I thought we had some exceptional good looks. I thought that watching it live and then going through the film a few times, I think the same thing played out. We shot it much better. The ones we made, the ball got into high percentage areas that got into the paint, and we kicked it back out, whether it was in transition or in some type of special situation, or we shot them with our momentum going towards the basket. And that's the thing we probably talked about the most. What's the type of shot that we're getting, and why do some go in and some don't? And it's pretty evident on film. The ones that are going in are the ones that we're stepping into, running into, 10 toes to the rim. Ball comes from the inside out, has entered the TFZ, as we call it. So that's just the type of shot I think impacts the percentage more than anything else.
Let's go to Adam Jardy next. Adam.
Hey, Greg. I know you're obviously focused on the here and the now, but Chris Holtman had his radio show today, and he said that the Big Ten coaches talked this morning on a call, and just kind of about like the potential for the schedule to change going forward and what the Big Ten tournament might look like. And I just, from your viewpoint, like how strange is it, like thinking about what the rest of this season might ultimately look like in this league, and what are your thoughts on there even being a Big Ten tournament?
Well, I think, I don't want to get into the specifics of what we talked about as the league coaches and what information came from the league office, because we're still not, nothing is final yet. I think knowing that, I think the plan that's in place that we talked about this morning is a good one. I think you're like through all of this, we're all really monitoring and walking through this day to day, and not knowing how this is going to look in a month. Are we going to miss more league games? Is there going to be more pauses, more cancellations, those type of things? how does that, when we get towards the end, how does that impact the conference tournament? Is the conference tournament hold value? How does those that are probably into the NCAA tournament, which I think right now it looks like there's 11, if it was today, that would be in from our league. So there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of unknowns, I think right now, Adam, that, in a month we may know more. I think the obviously Michigan going on pause with the variant now is of concern. And that's obviously something that everybody's watching really closely to see what the impact of that, along with the normal strain, has as we continue to walk forward. So, we have 3 teams right now that are still on pause. Michigan State, Michigan, and Nebraska. So, I think there's just so many unknowns, but I think the plan they have, if we can continue to walk it forward, that's the all intents purposes, there's the plan to continue to go forward with everything. But I think the plan that was laid out this morning is good and can be successful, but we don't know how it's going to change from, January 25th to February 15th and things going forward.
Let's go to Dan Wolken next. Dan?
Hey, Greg, Dan Wolken from USA Today here. Following up on that last question, Chris Mack from Louisville said today that he believes that there's going to be some teams that opt out of conference tournaments, knowing that they're for all intents and purposes that they're going to be in. I think you're probably in good position for you guys to get in at this point. Do you think that would be a conversation that you'd have, whether or not to opt out?
I haven't really thought about it. I think, there's just so many unknowns right now to really see where that's at. And I know that was somewhat talked about, I think on Saturday's pregame with Coach Izzo was on nationally with CBS. And, if you're a team like a Gonzaga, is it worth playing your conference tournament? If you're a Baylor, is it worth it? Knowing that the risk that you inherit every time you travel and every time you, and not that the risk doesn't exist here, but every time you take a step outside the box, so to speak, you increase the odds. So I think that's something that as time goes on, much like I answered the last question, there's just a lot of unknowns right now. And we have to just keep all options available and navigate through it as those situations present themselves.
Got time for a couple more here. Let's go to Josh Schaefer. Josh.
Greg, going back to kind of the last game against Maryland, I was curious just how you feel like the defense has grown over the past month, and if you feel like you guys are a little bit different of a defense or have a better handle of the concepts heading into this game.
Well, you always hope you're better, but there were some things defensively Saturday that we were not, we need to be better at, although Ohio State did hit high inordinate amount of tougher twos, challenge twos than what you would normally see. And but we still got to be better at situations, and that's really game to game. I mean, you're only as good as the next 40 minutes you play. So for as good or maybe poor as you were in the last game or 3 games ago or 6 games ago, you have to continue to build upon it and get better and grow from it. So, like I said, I think we're better in terms of understanding some things. But understanding it is one thing, and performing within the line of fire, so to speak, are 2 separate things. So you just got to try to reinforce good habits. As I mentioned, we drilled a lot of things today that hopefully will help with that. And but then it's a matter of carrying that over and doing it consistently. And I think that's the biggest thing for us is at times we're really good on both ends of the floor, and at times we dip. And that's probably every coach's challenge, except for maybe Baylor and Gonzaga might be the only 2 that seem to have been striking it well all year, every game. So trying to be consistent on both ends. That's the carrot that's out there all the time for teams and coaches and everybody involved.
Let's go to Ben Wargel. Ben?
Hey, Greg, you talk about, big men always kind of develop at a different pace. I'm curious what you've seen in practices from Stephen Crowell, how he's kind of grown working on scout team this year.
I like him. I think he's going to be a really good player here. realistically, I'd love to be able to get him in some game experience, but it just hasn't worked where I felt comfortable doing it. But I really, I like the trek he's on. I like how much he's improved. He's, he's a handful because he's so skilled. He passes it really well. Got a great feel for the game. Doesn't get rattled. It's got to get stronger and all those things that'll come as he continues to grow and develop in this program. But he's off to a very good start. Just so happens he's got 2 seniors sitting in front of him at that position, specifically with how we have to align defensively with opponents. So it makes it more difficult to play multiple bigs at once.
One more here quick with Steve McGargy, and then we'll bring in the student athletes.
Thanks. I was just wondering, you talked about the big men, the prevalence of big quality big men that you have in the Big Ten this year. How unusual is that in today's game? And can you remember a time in the Big Ten where y'all had this many quality big men across the league?
Yeah, I think, it's a wide variety. We've got seniors, we've got, freshmen, and we've got people in between. And I think not only the quality of the bigs, but the quality of the teams. Been in this league 18, 19 years. We've never seen the depth like this 1 through 14. But the quality, as you mentioned, specifically the bigs, you can go up and down everybody's roster and find, obviously you got older guys like the 2 we've got, and you got Garza at Iowa. That's an older player. But then you go to, Coburn at Illinois, and you've got Dickinson at Michigan that are younger guys. So I think just the quality, and Jackson Davis, Robbins in Minnesota. I mean, we keep going on and on with the quality of the guys, but it's usually you see it that there's older guys that develop, and predominantly this is a developmental league that guys get into a program, grow and develop, and you see the emergence as they get to the latter end of their careers. But we've got a couple right now that are doing it much younger in their career, specifically Dickinson at Michigan as a freshman. So it makes every night out, you've got a game plan for how do you handle and try to minimize the post players, which is a challenge.